So I've been going back down the rabbit hole.
Say cheese.
Trying to work out where it started.
Fire with these feelings of mine.
Say cheese.
Like on everything I knew, gave destiny the finger and ran. That's how I ended up. It's Wednesday. Trouble is my middle name. He took my full name. It's Wednesday. Trouble. And then I got afraid he took my middle is not who he was. The closer I get to him, to do with who he appears to be, the more he eludes me. Much now. I know. I never called Mr. Manor. Who he is. So I've been going back down the rabbit hole, trying to work out where it started. And even though I think it began before 1985, way before 1985, anything before 1985 is hearsay. My satanic initiation, induction, takedown, whatever you want to call it, became official. When Alex Proyas, the director of The Crow, Dark City, I, Robot, cast me in the flash-in-the-pan film clip Midnight Man. And interestingly enough, the reality depicted in this clip is the same reality that I'm living right now. It's the reality of a victim of covert community harassment, organized gang stalking. And a year after that initiation video, I was given the plum roll as a reporter on Simon Townsend's Wonderworld.
Vegemite, cream cheese, gherkins, corned beef, salmon, lettuce, carrot and beetroot, banana, alfalfa, chicken and mayonnaise, raw fish, pate. The only qualification is that you should have a big mouth.
And then my programming began in earnest.
So I thought we might take this opportunity to get you to sign a dish for us for the Rack of Fame.
Great.
In the meantime, we'll be back after this. Get you to sign a dish for us for the Rack of
The rack is a torture device consisting of a rectangular, usually wooden frame, slightly raised from the ground with a roller at one or both ends. As the interrogation progresses, a handle and ratchet mechanism attached to the top roller are used to very gradually increase the tension on the chains, inducing excruciating pain. So the Rack of Fame may explain how TV's red-hot storyteller ends up loveless, childless, and homeless. Please explain.
Terrific. Hello. With me I have somebody who you wouldn't normally expect to see for at least another half an hour. Wednesday Kennedy.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So when I look back on Wonderworld, I think that it's classic Wizard of Oz programming. And then that's really where my magical thinking began in earnest and was encouraged and certainly nurtured.
That anything is possible, babe. You belong with me. So let your mind run free.
They held cattle calls, auditions, big national auditions. So they sent out, to everywhere in Australia that the auditions were up. So everybody, felt like they had a chance, They could be a Wonderworld reporter.
You believe it's life inside a bubble. You believe the dreams are there for those who tried it. You belong with me. So let your mind run free. Welcome to my world.
If they believed anything could happen, if they believed anything was possible, then you belong with me. Let your mind run free. That's a sort of a satanic lyric when you think about it. Who do we belong with? We belong with Simon Townsend. He's just a man who had a great idea. But he's the one that's really reeling us in. What do those lyrics really mean? And what about all those symbols in the opening credit? I mean, it sure looks like mind control graphics to me.
So let your mind run
The
free.
blue brick wall is interesting because blue is the native colour of programming. It's according to Fritz Springmeier. So we've got the blue wall with the bricks, just another brick in the wall.
Skies are blue.
Also too, there's 3 oval windows. 3 is a very important number in the occult and in Freemasonry.
3 times.
In the purple sky is a sun, an orange sun, which is turned into a fried egg. The egg could be a symbol for what happens to the actual brain after a few years of this mind control programming, which is you literally end up fried and with multiple personalities. And of course, here we have the hand, the helping hand, the midnight man, that old white glove.
I can understand, I can help you to your promised land. I'm your helping hand, your midnight man.
These lyrics are a method to hypnotically confuse the brain to perceive that the over-the-rainbow experience, which is usually horrible abuse, is a dream. The slave's internal world becomes the reality, and the external real world becomes the land of Oz, which is perceived as make-believe. Note the rhinoceros, the castle. The castle's very important. The 3 people, and the bird with the cat face, bird breast and wings, and human legs with paws on the end, flying over the castle and pooping a big blob of light. It's basically nuking those 3 heads.
You believe the dreams are there for those who tried it. You belong with me.
Well, here we have a sort of creature which is a head, and the head is a part of an apple, Garden of Eden perhaps, Eve eating the apple. Whatever this creature is, they've lost their heart and they've lost their body. They're just a head attached to legs, and one of their eyes definitely looks a bit spack. So there's a bit of mind control going on with that apple creature. And notice that it's dancing in a triangle shape.
Show the side of their personalities that school uniforms just can't capture. And when you get 950 girls out of uniform, anything can happen.
I absolutely do not think Simon had a clue about any of this. I think he's been monarched himself because he started out as a conscientious objector, and they would have had to pull him into line. Australia in the 1960s, anti-conscription movement. In November 1964, the Commonwealth Parliament reintroduced compulsory military service. In 1968, the draft resistance movement was formed. The anti-conscription movement became stronger between 1966 and 1969. In June, Simon Townsend, host of the television program Simon Townsend's Wonderworld, was granted exemption from national service due to his imprisonment for being a conscientious objector to the Vietnam War.
Yes, indeed. The world really is wonderful. Goodbye.
And there we are, all five of us on the rack of fame. Rocket's very interesting. It's got the sun at the top, then it's got a square, a box shape, and of course we've got the triangle at the bottom because that's what's driving all of this programming the pyramid. Also, that camera has grown balls. See that ball bag on the top of the camera? Balls have wings. Who knew? And considering that the executive producer, the executive producer? Anyway, he was the producer. He was really our boss. I mean, Simon just sort of sent out memos. Simon was like the Wizard of Oz. He sent these memos, but you never saw him, really, unless you were summoned. But what shall I call him? I'll call him Scurvy Bore. Scurvy Bore was really the one that ran the show. And Scurvy had graduated from Australian military intelligence as a scriptwriter. Came out as a scriptwriter and worked as a scriptwriter in, I think, television for a while before going into public relations. So he was the master of publicity, like truly the master of the spin. And I'm sure it was no accident that Hugh's first story was on the Lamington and that my first story was investigating a new swimming harness.
A life jacket offers more head support and floats you higher in the water, so a buoyancy vest won't save your life. A life jacket will. Buoyancy vests come in a range of fashion colours so you can look trendy while you're bobbing around in the ocean.
There was a woman named Mandy who had a sort of producer role, but she had a sort of spy feel about her. And she wore heart-shaped Lolita glasses. She was the one who chose me. I was too flat-chested for Simon. He wanted a buxom blonde.
Some call it coincidence, others call it magic, and yet others call it a miracle.
So this is my flight diary.
Anyway, when she was in England, reporter Wednesday Kennedy visited old Arthur's hometown, Glastonbury.
But I was worried and stressed that another one of my stories would fuck out. The crew are annoyed with working with an inexperienced person, Mandy. I don't understand her at all. She's strange. I don't trust her at the moment. She's very palsy with Brett. She's funny with me. Maybe she's tired. I don't know.
This is Glastonbury Abbey, legendary burial ground of King Arthur and alleged birthplace of Christianity in Britain. Before Christianity came to Avalon, it was the home of pre-Christian religion, the religion of the Druids on the holy Isle of Avalon. Avalon was not an earthly place. Only those that believed in secrets, magic and fairies could enter Avalon. But as Christianity grew stronger, Avalon faded into the mists.
What a nice story from Wednesday Kennedy in England.
How did you get the job? Did you have to go through the same thing as we saw with the
The big auditions.
What was that like?
Well, I'd been for it a few years before, so I knew what to expect. I knew that it wasn't easy, and I just thought, well, I'll go along because it'll be really good practice in auditioning for something. And then I went along, and there were 259 other girls, and I went through the process where they say, okay, get up in front of camera and do something, and go stage.
It was a sort of slave role, really, because we weren't on proper television money. We were only on $500 a week, and we shot 5 stories a week, so we were out every day. There was no director, there was just me, a cameraman and a sound recordist. We'd get there and you'd tell them what cutaways to shoot, you'd write it on the spot and set up the shots, and you'd do the interviews, and you'd do the cutting order for the editor, and you'd pump it through, you'd just pump it through. No excuses, none accepted. If a story fell through, you had to find another.
Well, today's story was going to be about guns, but it's now about flowers and how I love collecting flowers. Oh, well, there goes my flowers, so I guess it's now a story about collecting guns. All right, I'm coming. So, you're the gun collector?
Yes, Wednesday.
Very pleased to meet you.
So when we got the gig, Hugh was the hero. No, Hugh was a child star, and Hugh was woohoo. And then, from the day that we went out and shot the first rushes, came back with our first rushes.
Watch this! Help!
And Scurvy, came out of the editing room, and suddenly things changed. I was the golden girl. I was the rough diamond. Now I think rough diamond, diamond programming. And Hugh was tortured from then on. Told that he sounded like a poofter. He always sounded like a poofter. He sounded like a poofter at the audition. It's terrible. That's like hiring a stripper and then bagging her out for acting like a slut. It's just mean. It's trauma-based mind control. And Hugh was used to it because he'd been a child star, so he was already well, enslaved. But I wasn't. I didn't like it. And I didn't really get it from Scurvy. Scurvy was a terror to everyone else, but nice to me because he was sort of grooming me, really. Grooming me. Building me up. It was interesting in the first article that we got in the Telegraph, when they put our names on the slate board, Hugh got his full name, Hugh Monroe, whereas I just got Wednesday. Even though there was plenty of room on that slate for Kennedy, they were already wiping out the Kennedy, because that's what the programming is about. It's about wiping out all learned ethics, taking you away from your family, away from your tribe, making you go against the value systems that you were brought up with, So you hate yourself, and also, you know, your tribe might reject you. So this is what the programming is, you know, so you move away from your family and that, you know, the handlers, the cabal, the cult, the people who now believe they own you because they're investing money into your programming and into making you a star and all of this nonsense.
Well, I was doing lots of things. I was working in an aftercare centre with kids from 3 to 7 years.
So you've had experience working a lot with kids?
Yeah. I've coordinated a youth drop-in centre, and I've worked with kids in Melbourne, in Fitzroy, and I've done a childcare certificate, so I've worked with kids a lot. I like kids.
See, if I had followed my dad's footsteps, I would have been a childcare worker, and I would have just helped people, and I would have lived my life in service that way, and I would have been really happy. You know, I was happy.
You think you're original? You were programmed to be.
And then I became a national TV celebrity. And it changed the whole course of my life.
And also you're in bands or something?
Yeah, I was singing in a band. We played around the inner city. We were great.
We weren't great, actually. We were bloody awful. But that was what was so great. That we could be bloody awful and still pull a crowd. But that band traumatized me. Because we got into the Cooking with George compilation album, which was a Triple J album and a really big deal. And Vince and Miriam, the bass player and the keyboard player, just didn't turn up. They just bailed at the last minute. So that was a huge trauma.
Oh, that's an interesting.
And a humiliation as well, a public humiliation.
It's quite a long story, actually, and it doesn't...
Another time.
And I'm sort of wondering if that was rigged as well.
Who were some of the best people you've ever met?
Bill, how difficult is it to learn how to paint with your mouth?
Well, it took me about 3 years of intensive study.
Do you feel that you're as good an artist as an able-bodied person?
At times I do, yes. With a knife, I think
The best side of Wonderworld was that it was a celebration of
I think you are.
soul expression and creativity. And the worst side was that it was a laboratory for MK Ultra mind control.
With eyes that know the darkness in my soul.
And I almost met the Queen in England, but
Missed her by that much.
we just missed her.
World TV host Simon Townsend, still reeling from the death of his show's beloved bloodhound, has been rocked by the arrest of one of his camera crews. Well, guess who that was? It appears that the tripod case is very similar to an RPG-7 rocket-powered grenade, a powerful Russian-built handheld weapon often used in terrorist raids. When crazy Wonderworld reporters Wednesday Kennedy and Hugh Munro went to Christmas Island to film some stories for Wonderworld Christmas Day special, they didn't expect to be imprisoned. Due to an industrial dispute which virtually closed the island down, the two intrepid reporters and the Wonderworld film crew were told they couldn't leave the island for 3 weeks. Suspect. All power on the island was cut and the airport was closed, and they almost went hungry because the restaurant and canteen on Christmas Island were both closed. The crew were granted special permission, and the only supermarket was open for them so they could get some food, which they had to prepare and eat cold. The residents also made it difficult for the reporters because most of them refused to speak to the film crew, as they suspected they were covering the industrial dispute and not filming stories for the Logie award-winning children's show. Little did I know that in just a few years' time, asylum seekers, mainly departing from Indonesia, would begin landing on Christmas Island. Australia, the land of the free, unless you are a refugee. Or an enemy of Freemasonry. Turned out the world wasn't really that wonderful.
Paint your palette blue and gray. Look out on a summer's day with eyes that know the darkness in my soul.
Wednesday, you've done heaps of stories on Wonderworld. Have you got any funny experiences about them?
Probably my favourite story was a story that we did
This
on
is
Clutter.
not the story on Clutter.
I had to do it in my
I
own
think
house.
this was
Here it
a
is.
story
do it in my
about
own
gold.
Yeah, oh, here it is.
Anyway, I think it's really interesting that they chose this shot, and I think it's really interesting
because I had to
how many times I appear in stories in
I had to do it in my own
leopard
house.
print clothing. I mean, some of these outfits are mine, but I had a sponsorship deal going with a boutique in the Strand. So I was dressed. So I also wore outfits that I otherwise wouldn't have worn, like this zebra jacket.
I can't concentrate on things I hope about, so I just have to eat.
Okay, eat.
I must admit, I was a little bit sloppy as a celebrity. I hosted the show one afternoon. I'd dyed my hair, and I think up these orange fingers. I look like I've been chain smoking from every finger. But anyway, so you know that wasn't very good. That was sort of, wah.
Wholemeal topped with sesame seeds, poppy seeds, onion flakes, garlic flakes, caraway seeds, or dill.
Wow. We got a new producer who was a cameraman from Channel 9. Let's call him Harry Handler.
Follow that gorilla.
We've got a gorilla for sale.
And from the minute Harry Handler got there, he started to torment me. But then apparently some doctor, it's probably a Freemason, started ringing up and saying that my eyes were pinned and that he was a doctor and I'd been taking cocaine, and cocaine was never my drug. Never, ever, ever my drug. I was not taking cocaine. You know, I liked the occasional joint, but I didn't smoke before I went to work. And I didn't drink at work. It was, you know, it could have been the mind control. My eyes are really light blue, and, you know, so the pupils stand out. Also, too, we'd shoot it early in the morning, so, you know, that sort of television glare on your eyes early in the morning. I think my eyes probably freaked out a little bit, but I don't know. Whatever it was, I wasn't taking cocaine, but I was starting to be accused of taking cocaine and, you know, show me your eyes and all this bloody bullshit. So I found it bullying, and I just thought, I didn't even really like being a celebrity. So I quit. And I threatened to go to a New Idea and talk about what a sweatshop they ran, which probably wasn't a good idea. But anyway, live and learn. I was already targeted at that stage anyway. I'd already done the flash in the pan film clip where I was officially the enemy of Freemasonry. So once you're officially the enemy, you might as well just, you know, go for gold.
Come over here, mate. I'd like to end today's program with a trip down memory lane. And before I go, however, I'd like to remind you of something I've said for the last 1,758 shows. Yes, indeed. The world really is wonderful. Goodbye.
Well, the walkathon has come to an end, and while a lot of money has been raised, it may take these people a few days to recover. No!